All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Talkin Detroit Sports with Josh Clark, and I'm just secondary. Dave Cesefske just here for the ride. Josh, I love that smile, man. Been a good day for you betting or what?
Possibly. It could be. Still waiting on a couple more games to end, but it could be.
Right. I can see. You can just see like the light flashing every now and then. Josh has probably got like 18 TVs set up, and you got a bookie. You're just waiting to give a call for. Oh, can't help it, right? It's a little bit of an addiction, but I mean, it could be worse, right? It could be like heroin or something else. Like sports, I feel like it's a good alternate. Man, let's get right into it, man. It's by the time that we release this, obviously some of these baseball games will be over with. So let's start with college football first. Listen, we'll start just because, look, I'm in Ohio. I'm a huge Michigan fan, though. I don't like Ohio State. I want to put that out there, but happy to do a job every day where I get to cover them every now and then. They were heavily favored, but at the same time last year, they only won by, I think, 3 points versus Maryland. Maryland came in at 5-0. Ohio State undefeated at 4-0. But they look pretty good. I mean, Maryland looked like they should. Maryland, right? Like they were in the game for quite a bit. They've got a decent offense, but I think where you saw that separation, Josh, Maryland just has no defense.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the big, defense is a big key to play with the big boys. The Ohio State, the Michigans. Every so often, Penn State, pulls an upset of one of those two and takes control of the league,
of course.
But for the main part, Michigan, Ohio State are the two dogs in that conference. And as I say that, Michigan just has a pick six.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. They're playing Minnesota. They gotta beat them, right? That's like last week when they played Nebraska. Like everyone's like, oh, I don't know, Matt Rule. I'm like, dude, that's not Matt Rule's team out there. He's just like,
right.
He's that first year with Matt Rule. You just kind of ride the bumps, and he'll bring in the guys.
He's waiting to get his players in there. Absolutely.
Yeah, they don't have a quarterback as well.
Yeah.
And I don't care what you say. Minnesota doesn't either, right? So, but yeah, man. I know there's one that I want to talk about, but a couple weeks ago when we did talk about college football, we were mighty wrong about Kentucky. They look good. They look good, right? And then what just happened?
Yeah, no, they look good against Florida, which I did say before picking Florida that, we always have a hard time. We always have a hard time playing in Lexington against them coming off a big win.
Yep.
I did put that out there before I made my prediction picking Florida. I just figured, the talent's on the field. We have the talent, we have, every aspect of the game from offense, defense. We have a solid quarterback. We have a run game.
But what happens when you play the number one team in the nation, Josh?
Yeah, and then you turn around, right? You play the number one team in the nation as this Kentucky today, and absolutely getting curb stomped.
You just look like a JV team at that point, right? Like that's the thing, man. Like I want to talk about more of these games, but can we just make this point known? Like, yeah, the playoff that's going to be bigger, you bring more teams in. Beautiful, that's great. But like, if we're talking about contenders, there's only a few. There's only a few, right? Like, I love Michigan football, I really do. And like, oh, this and that, and JJ McCarthy. But like, he has not proven anything on the big stage when you're playing the big dogs, and that's just a different game, man. Alabama, Georgia, those SEC teams, like, show me something. I'm sorry, but like, I don't get anything from you playing Minnesota. I know that's got to be on their schedule. I get it. But it's just a different kind of football in the SEC.
Yeah, no, and coming next year, with the likes of Oregon and USC and Washington, UCLA joining the Big Ten, I think we'll truly see if the brand of Michigan is actually back. Because they will be losing a lot of talent. Obviously, at least I expect them to.
Oh, they will
with all the talent that they have going to the league. So let's see if they can regroup and still compete against some of the big boys that are coming in from the Pac-12.
So I'm glad that you brought that up. Here's how I look at that. Like, okay, there's two factors in this, and this is why Michigan and other schools are okay with this. Okay, if if you bring those teams in, obviously it's money. That's the first one, right? It's gonna bring in more money. The second thing is when the playoff gets bigger, more teams come in. You can now have 2 losses. You can now have, now it's like if you lose 2 losses, you're just not gonna get in the playoff. Probably not. Like maybe,
Absolutely.
right? But
Yeah,
like,
it's never happened before.
right. Well, there you go. It's never happened. But when you expand, you leave more, I don't know, room for a 2-loss team, right?
Yeah,
Like,
you have a bigger leash, so to
yeah.
speak. You can actually go out there, kind of be aggressive, a la Dan Campbell on fourth downs.
I know you love that. Oh, you do not.
So I mean, it gives teams, the aggressiveness to be like, okay, well, even if we don't get this and it costs us a game, whatever, we can still, potentially lose one more game and still
Yeah.
make it.
Yeah.
If it's not an ugly loss. So, I mean, I personally think the 4 best teams this year should get in regardless of scheduling, because the schedules, if you across the board of the top teams, are just all crazy tough.
Oh yeah, I mean,
So I expect some of the teams to have 1-2 losses come the end of the season, outside of maybe your Florida State, who plays in a weaker ACC.
Yeah, and listen, I'm with you 100%. I mean, there's certain teams out there that the competition is tougher. The schedule, if you just look at the schedule, the record, and you're like, oh, versus this team, it's like when we have this Coastal Carolina or whatever, like, oh, they're amazing,
Right.
And
Right.
Dude, come on, man, come play a big dog, and then we'll talk. Josh, just kind of looking at the college football scoreboard out there, a lot of teams taking control where they should with some of these games, but why don't you tell me a upset that might surprise some people out there that you like?
The current game that I'm watching right now, and it's costing me my parlay, is freaking. And I was big on them all season coming into the season. That's Fresno State, the Bulldogs.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I've been kind of big on them all season. I like
Wyoming, man. What in the world?
Yeah, Wyoming's putting it to them right now.
Wyoming, it's 24/7 right now, and oh my gosh, that's a shocker.
To me, that's a shocker right there for sure.
Yeah.
Not too many upsets today, though. I mean, a lot of people say maybe Oklahoma over Texas because number 12 took down number 3, but that's a rivalry game, so I don't really read into that much.
Right, and I'm with you, and I'm looking at this, and I mean, listen, Missouri played a heck of a ball game for 3 quarters there. I think LSU, took control where they should be, and they won that game. Obviously, UCLA winning 25-17, which, dude, I know Washington State's not, they were just now coming back, but like, I still think that's a huge win.
Yeah, they were number 13, but
right.
I don't know if people look at the spreads or not, but UCLA was actually favored by 3 in that game.
Well, I get it because you're going to UCLA, and I understand, and I don't think a lot of people trust Washington State, right? Like, they haven't been back.
There's nothing to trust about Washington State. I mean, is this a one-year wonder season? Because, I mean, they haven't really been good for, I don't know, years. So,
but, like, when I'm talking about the SEC, and listen, man, I hate how it's pumped up,
the SEC and even the Pac-12. I don't mean to cut
you off. No, you're good.
Pac-12, like if you look at Washington, Oregon, and USC schedule, like, they still have some tough games. They all got to play each other still.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's two tough games right there. They all play Utah, I believe, still. Oregon State's number 15 right now. So I mean, that's a tough conference as well right now.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like I said, once this is released, some of these games are going to be over. But you'll just look at some of these games that are done right now. Listen, Virginia Tech loses 17-39. I feel like since Frank Beamer left there, they're struggling. They don't have an identity right now, right? Beamer ball a little bit different. Yep. They don't have that identity. We already talked about Maryland losing to Ohio State. I mean, 37-17, but that was a much closer ball game for a lot of that. I feel like when Ryan Day got that penalty against him, for being on the sidelines too far, that's when they took over, man. Next play, they get a touchdown. I don't know how you feel about this. I'm curious what your opinion is. I'm not really that impressed with their quarterback play. I think, listen, Marvin Harrison Jr., is the best wide receiver, and it's not close. But like, I'm not. I just don't see a ton from that position right now. What do you think, man?
Yeah, no. So Ohio State, obviously we're Michigan fans,
Yeah.
above Ohio State, so we hate Ohio State. But yeah, no, I'm with you right there. Kyle McCord has not looked good at all.
No.
Like you said, you have a stud in Marvin Harrison Jr. and you're struggling to get him the ball. Like that can't happen.
Yeah. And what
Sure
happened when they
gonna
started throwing to him? What happened, Josh?
right. I think he had 6 for 109 in the
Yeah.
first half.
And it doesn't even have to look good. He's going to come down with it.
Right now, not having Travion Henderson, your running back, kind of hurts your passing game, your play actions, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Not having that running game. But yeah, I don't expect a lot out of Ohio State. I mean, sure,
Yeah.
Big Ten play like Maryland today, Penn State and Michigan are the toughest games left on their schedule.
Yeah.
So I expect them to take care of Penn State as well. I believe they're at home in that game, and then they're at the Big House, which I expect them to lose.
Yeah.
To Michigan.
Right.
We'll
be there.
We'll be there. The one thing that is shocking to me, though, I kind of mentioned it to you a little bit ago, earlier today. I seen an article on ESPN, and Ohio State is actually the number 1 team favored to make the college football playoffs.
Wow. Okay. Okay. But I'm not shocked by that, though, man.
At a 54% clip, though.
Listen, even if you lose to Michigan, though, they're probably still going to put him in there because they love Ohio State. They love him.
Yeah, I don't get the love. I get the love around them in past years, but this year not having a quarterback play.
Well,
I don't get the love around them.
I'm going to tell you right now, and people might be like, "What are you talking about?" But I know, just being in this area, being a little bit closer, I'm telling you, they love Brian Hartline there. If Ryan Day messes up, they'll make Hartline the coach. And I'm serious because he is who recruits guys. He's one of the best recruiters in the country. He's incredible. Good receiver too. He played some NFL, right? Great hands, but the dude's great with kids. An offensive mind there. If Ryan Day loses to Michigan, I'm serious.
And Ohio State guy as well, I believe.
He is.
So he's got the ties there as well. So I mean, that.
And they don't love Ryan Day. They don't love him, man.
Yeah, that university, loves Heartline. The boosters, the faculty, like they all love him. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at that either because I mean, Day is he's blown some of the big games, a la Jim Harbaugh.
Hey, listen, man. When the thing is, he's stubborn, and he's really stubborn. They were going to single safety. Dude, we were going over the top like crazy. How do we know? Because we were right there. We saw it. It was a beautiful thing. I loved it. Love working in Ohio. Go Blue, baby. But let's move on, man. Listen, it's some closer games too. Arkansas up 20-17 right now in the fourth quarter over number 16 Mississippi. That's surprising to me. I did see another game. A little bit surprising to me. Louisville up 23-13 in the fourth over Notre Dame, man.
Notre Dame.
Maybe Notre Dame is not as good as people thought they were. I really like Hartman, but I
like Hartman as well. But a lot of people don't realize either. Last time Sam Hartman stepped into Louisville and played Louisville Cardinals, he was a subject of 6 turnovers.
And what jersey was he wearing?
He was wearing a Wake Forest jersey,
but it didn't matter.
He was responsible for 6 turnovers.
He was seeing ghosts.
I mean, obviously, it's still on. That's still on his mind. Obviously, if they're losing that game in that fashion with a more talented team.
Yeah, Josh, if you had, give me your 4 teams right now. If you had to, for the college football playoff.
It's tough right now because I think it's a 5-team race.
Because Georgia's up there. Michigan we agree on. Georgia we agree on.
Michigan, Georgia for sure.
Okay.
Florida State. If they
just gonna say them. 39-17 as we said.
Yeah. Florida State if they can.
Texas is out. They lost. They're out.
Personally, I think the Pac-12 winner gets in over the Big 12 winner just because of the conference and the schedule that they have to play.
So you don't think there's a chance Ohio State gets in even if they lose to Michigan?
If they have 4 undefeated teams, which I don't really think they're going to.
That's tough.
Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, I all expect to be undefeated.
I agree.
Oklahoma just put their toughest test behind them in Texas. So I expect them to go undefeated.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you also look at the Pac-12 with those three, teams in Oregon, Washington, and USC. I think each one of those teams are going to give each other at least one loss.
Yeah.
But is that strength of schedule in that conference, even at one loss, enough to jump over an undefeated Oklahoma team who didn't play necessarily a tough conference or schedule?
Okay. I think no. But man, that's tough.
So you're telling me right now, if Southern Cal say loses to let's say Oregon, but then they go and they beat Notre Dame, they beat Utah, they beat 10, and they already beat Colorado.
I'm going to tell you why, man. I think there's a dark horse here that we're not talking about, and you may disagree, and you love this team. And I'm going to tell you right now, Drake May in North Carolina. Listen, man, they got Devontae Walker back, okay? So he looked good today. He went 6 catches, 43 yards. He's going to only get better. Drake May threw for 450 with 3 touchdowns, 33 of 47.
Yep.
Dude is balling.
Yeah, if they can if they can somehow get by that Florida State team, I do agree that they can potentially sneak into the playoff as well as the ACC champion.
Now you say Florida State, and
I expect Florida State to beat them though. Yeah,
and that's the thing. We talk about Drake May, but Jordan Travis, he didn't have a great game today. He's another guy though. He's slippery out there, man. I like him a lot. I really do. I think Drake May's obviously a better player in terms of pro, but like Jordan Travis is a playmaker, and he doesn't have to be amazing for them to win. Now, a couple years ago when he came in there, he was okay, and he had to be almost perfect for them to win. I think coaching's gotten better there. They're 5-0 right now, number 5 in the nation. I don't know that they're going to go up this week. But actually they might because Texas, so they're probably going to go up a spot to 4.
They'll go up at least 1 because of the Texas loss.
Right, so that's big.
I'd be curious to see how the committee drops Texas down, losing to a top 12 team like Oklahoma.
I mean, you look at it. Listen, man, I know there's been a couple big games for Texas, but coming into this game, but Quinn Ewers was known as like a guy. Oh, he like Jared Goff, right? Like. They kept talking about, he doesn't turn the ball over. He doesn't turn the ball over. And today he had 2 picks, and listen, Josh, 31 to 37. You're like, okay, that's pretty darn good, but you got 2 picks, so you can't have that, obviously. But Oklahoma's a different beast. I think they're back. And I was a little afraid, and I know they have never dropped down or whatever, but they're starting to give up quite a bit of points. And that was when they had not Bob Stoops, help me out, USC coach.
How long ago?
Last couple of years ago. No.
So
he's right now USC coach.
Oh, Lincoln Riley.
So when Lincoln was there, the problem is okay, they can score with anyone. They can't stop anybody. They still have issues with that, man.
That's also the mantra of the Big 12, though. Like they never play defense. You can always expect a shootout.
That's why you'll never win a championship, though.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got to play some defense, and that's why when it comes down to the end of the season, I know they're not what they were, but Alabama was in those conversations for years because they could play with anybody, put anyone at quarterback. Now they had good quarterbacks in the past 5-6 years, but before that, just dudes, right? Just dudes. And Georgia, that's why they're monsters. They got good offense and they have a dominating defense, and they just put everybody in the league, right? So, you got to play. You got to play on both sides. I love Michigan football, love it, but they're just not there, man. I don't see them winning a natty with that team. Love them, hope they do. I'm gonna be there supporting them and watching, but it feels different, man. You're a Florida fan, right?
Florida first and foremost,
right? Okay, so when Florida was in the big games, when it was Florida, when they had Timmy and all these great players, you knew we're gonna win. We're gonna win, right? We're gonna win the national championship. I know they won a couple. They should have probably won 3, but Michigan, They're great. Great regular season team. Dude, they're not going to win a national championship like this, though.
And I think a lot of it has to fall on Harbaugh, honestly. Don't get me wrong. Like, I like him as a coach. Is he one of the greats in today's game? I don't personally think so.
Yeah.
I think he's a good coach. I don't think that he's top tier. I think
I
when
agree.
he comes up, when he comes up against some of the top, coaches, I think he gets out coached a lot.
Yeah.
And
I agree, man. I agree. I mean, Kirby Smart, best coach right now, in my opinion.
Yep.
What I mean, Kirby
Smart. Saban, you still got to put up there. I like NC coach. Like, no one expected Mac Brown to do what he's doing.
I'm going to throw out a couple names out there. Okay. I want you to rate them on a scale of 1 to 5. Okay. Not in order, just like 1 to 5, like 5 being, oh, they're a great coach, 1 awful. Okay. Just a few names because these are a couple programs we've talked about. I want to start with James Franklin, Penn State.
I think he's very underrated. I think he gets overlooked because of the Michigan and the Ohio State brand in the Big Ten. I think I'd put him at a solid 4.
Wow, that's okay for me. I'm going like 3.5 because still got to win some of those big games, but decent. Okay. All right, Brian Kelly.
Brian Kelly at LSU. I'm putting him at a 1.
He's terrible, bro.
He's had his moments. Don't get me wrong, where he has shown flashes of being a good coach, but he's not consistent. He doesn't coach his team well. He disappears in big moments.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, he's a 1.
They're like if you look up Brian Kelly, and I'm reading something here, 155 and 65. You're like, whoa, this is a great coach, dude. That's a guy that's had such good talent, and he chokes in the big game. With it. 100%. Here's another intriguing name. I like this guy, up and coming. Talk about Ohio guy, Luke Fickell, Wisconsin.
I like Luke Fickell. Again, I think another one of those situations where he's overlooked because of his talent or the talent in the Big Ten. I'd put him at a solid 3, in between like a 3 and a 4.
Yeah, did some good things at Cincinnati. Did as good as you can do, right? Desmond Ridder, right, went there. And they did as well as they were going to do, right? They got blown out in the playoff, but he knew that. So I think he's got his eyes on Ohio State. That's another possibility because he was a coach there, but it was just a transition period. I think I believe it wasn't Urban, it was Tressel.
Tressel.
Yep, and then he was there. Another guy I can't stand, but I'm gonna start off with say, hey, give me a 1 to 5 here. Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah, Jimbo Fisher. Not a big fan of him either. I really hated him at Florida State, obviously being a Florida guy.
Hey, they played Alabama good today.
They did play Alabama good today. They've beaten Alabama, 2 out of the last 3, I believe. He's done some good things. He has turned that A&M program around because it kind of was in shambles when he got there. I'd put him between like that solid 3 and 4 line. All right, more towards the 4 spot though. But yeah,
how many more of these you want? You want 3? Want 3 more?
Give me some more.
I'll give you 3 more. Okay. Let's go. University of Tennessee, Josh Heupel.
I like Josh Heupel. I do
too. I do too. Talk about former Sooners quarterbacks, right?
Yeah. I think he's very talented. I think that's why Joe Milton has kind of had a resurgence there because he has,
Agreed. Joe Milton's looked serviceable.
No, he's looked really good since going there under Josh Heupel, and I think it's because of Heupel and him knowing the position and, knowing the nuances of the game from that actual position of playing. But yeah, I'd put Heupel. I think they need talent there at Tennessee, but I think their future is right there with him. I'd put him around the 4.
Okay. I don't think we've given out any 5s yet, have we?
No. There's only a few in the game.
Yeah, okay. 2 more. I'm curious to see where you're going to go here. So before I tell you who it is, I'm going to give him a 2.5 because I can't stand the guy. Okay. Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss.
Oh, agree. Like I wouldn't give him more than a 3. I do like what he's done that program because Ole Miss wasn't really
Yeah.
much of
But
anything.
but doesn't he feel like the dad that's like, all right, kids, I'm gonna go get some milk and I'll be back and never. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like dude
Yeah.
just like abandons you and says he
Yeah.
loves you, and then he goes
Right.
off to the better family, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. He's not a relation. He's not a marriage type guy. He's a relationship type of guy. Every
Oh my
years.
gosh, 100%. All right, man. I'm gonna give you. I want to give you a juicy one here, and I'm curious to see what you'll say here. So here we go. Okay, great coach, but I want to know where you're at with this. Okay, before I tell you, I got to give you my score here. I'm saying 5, not because where he's at right now, but for what the man's done. Dabo Sweeney, Clemson.
Agree. He's probably one of the few that I would give a 5 to.
Right?
He has the pedigree, has the championships. He competes. He recruits.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think even on a down year, kind of like they are this year, I believe they're 3-2.
Yeah.
But
They're
he's still
4-2. They're 4-2. They
Okay.
beat Wake Forest today. So
Okay, so yeah, 4-2. So yeah, I think that even 2 losses is considered a down year there since he's been there.
great.
And even then, he's gonna have them probably around the top 15 come into the year.
Yeah.
Fighting for a New Year's Six bowl.
Doesn't it feel like there's been a Shipley there like every year for like a 30 years? You know what I mean? Like Will Shipley, like how many Shipleys are there? Like,
right.
I just don't get it. But anyways, if your name's Shipley, you can play in some capacity, right? Like,
right.
but yeah, man. Listen, that's a squad that, he's a 5 just from what he's done. How many? I'm curious there. Like 4-2. Okay, like it's not where they want to be. Obviously, they want to be every year undefeated at the end or one loss or something like that to be in the conversation. They're out of the playoff. Right. We know that, right? If they won the rest of their games, they might make the Rose Bowl or something like that. They could make something fun, right? But like those bowl games are not what they were when we were kids. You know what I mean? Like it's like slap in the face kind of, right?
Yeah, the bowl games really don't mean much anymore. They're pretty much just a money grab for the universities nowadays.
You're saying the Little Caesars Pizza Bowl or whatever it is in Detroit? That doesn't matter.
The Quick Lane Bowl.
Thanks for listening to Talkin Detroit Sports with Dave Cesefske and Josh Clark. Before you go, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button for all coverage. Detroit Sports.